Without Reservation, posted April 28, 2026. It does not do to dwell on dreams and forget to live. Albus Dumbledore. After closing another recent travel adventure, several things came to mind. First, how incredibly blessed I am, followed closely by the realization that between trips like these and everyday life, I may never exhaust the leadership lessons and anecdotes gained from crazy escapades, comedic miscues, dumb mistakes, and humans being human, useful for filling space here. I could write volumes just from the last few months. In fact, so much new material has come in since starting this article, I've lost focus. To relate it in computer terms, my disk drive is corrupted. The download speed of new data is overwhelming my outdated processor. I'm a dial-up connection in a broadband world. Tin cans and string on a satellite network. For instance, I had no intention of writing about this, but watching some of the recent Masters tournament reminded me that you can really learn a lot about someone on a golf course. Airports, airplanes, parking lots, restaurants, board meetings, ticket counters, waiting lines, registration desks, and travel in general similarly tend to reveal one's true colors. While the pros tend to keep things largely in bounds, temperament, attitude, disposition, character, propensity to shave strokes, take shortcuts, jump to conclusions, or make assumptions without knowing or checking the facts are readily exposed in most other players. Ego, which is a powerful behavioral motivator, often drives us to maintain some invisible and unnecessary upper hand, use manipulation to get our own way, win at all costs, or simply appear, again unnecessarily, better than we really are. The only people who care about that stuff are other people like them. Perhaps more revealing and disappointing is the inability for many of them to admit when they're wrong, apologize, or accept responsibility for their actions or the way they treat people. Those traits are sad commentary for a people created to love God and one another. Worse yet, their hubris probably blinds them to the fact this conversation is actually about them. Still, I find human behavior fascinating, rather amusing in fact, and prime material for articles, leadership lessons, speeches, and dinner conversations. I'll save the pretentiousness lesson for another article. But if you're reading this as someone with tendencies to be unkind, demeaning, demanding, unapologetic, or condescending toward coworkers, clerks, wait staff, servers, ticket agents, baggage handlers, TSA agents, or others you feel beneath you, we'll wait here while you go look in the mirror and ask yourself how treating people poorly became your top multiple choice option on the Interacting with Other Humans quiz. A better answer might be thinking less of yourself and spending more time building others up. Speak with care and kindness to everyone, without reservation. Be united in gentleness and love. Humbly extend grace and mercy even when it's difficult, especially when it's difficult. And never leave encouragement unspoken. Do you know what else should never be left unspoken? Observations, life lessons, and important questions inspired by interacting with other humans. Here's a sampling gleaned mostly from the recent data dump I mentioned. For starters, how many times should you really need to push the lavatory door unsuccessfully before realizing it pulls open? Were you really in there so long you forgot how you got in? Maybe you were just too busy holding your breath, or peeling your shoes off that disgusting floor, checking for streamers of toilet paper before returning to your seat, while wondering how someone's aim could possibly be that bad. And that lock, not a complicated device, complete with illumination and occupied warning, yet a curiously high number of inadvertent intrusions, made embarrassingly worse by the cramped, compromised position of one of the parties involved. This, of course, a much different circumstance than the scuba diver openly relieving himself in a crowded parking lot after his dive. Clearly unconcerned with spectators, I'd rather he was unconcerned about urinating in his rented wetsuit. Speaking of embarrassing and compromising positions, it was at a favorite Clearwater Beach hotel where the unfortunate timing of a coffee run to the lobby, meeting a man about a wallaby, and a resounding knock on the door nearly conspired to end my record of only being caught with my pants down in front of those I choose to be caught with my pants down in front of. What happened next can only be described as divine intervention. So as not to leave my wife outside juggling an armload of hot coffee, I scampered off my porcelain office chair to open the door, bottomless as the fries at Red Robin. Opening the door, I quickly and quite shockingly discovered it wasn't her at the door at all. It was some kid knocking at the door next door. Mercifully, the lad was looking the opposite direction. He never even noticed mine cracked open, thus sparing himself a hereafter unseeable image burned into his memory, and perhaps sparing me from embarrassment, being screamed at, punched, arrested, or all of the above. Did you really answer the door without pants? It depends. You see what I did there? But yes, sort of. Not exactly. They were around my ankles. To be fair, the door wasn't far from the commode, and I was hunched over, limiting unwanted exposure. Other worthy questions. Will the plane really leave without them if they don't block the entire terminal walkway before their boarding zone is called? Is anyone surprised those same masters of their domain are first to bolt out of their seat into the aisle on arrival with quicker reaction time than a sprinter at the gun? Are they only to be outdone by themselves ripping their carry-on, which should have been gate-checked anyway, from the overhead bin with such speed and grace that no one would dare question their authority as grand potentate of economy class? I expect you can relate. Honestly, I've probably done much of the same or worse in my lifetime. But I'm less impetuous now, older, and kinder. I consciously choose to do better now, to grow in faithfulness and do the best I can with what I have, right where God has me today. And because no one really knows how many todays they have, I cherish the blessing of every moment. In the last few months, I've watched rockets launch from Cape Canaveral, ice skated on board a ship in the Bahamas, and saw my wife knee-slide a contest-winning air guitar performance aboard the same ship, grilled fresh Spanish mackerel in the Florida Keys, and became dive certified in the Southern Caribbean, where I swam with sea turtles, eels, and octopus, and threw a bait ball. It was also there, in a not-so-rare moment of poor decision-making, I found a so-called waterproof bag, 12 Pro Max, and 60-foot depth are a bad combination. And while I hoped for the recovery of at least one underwater photo, and perhaps an impressive iPhone resurrection story, my rice bag life-saving efforts were unsuccessful. However, one of many consolations was watching a best friend deliver the most impressive, enjoyable seaside air chainsaw guitar solo ever to Jackal's The Lumberjack. There were monster trucks, sporting events, church functions, and conferences in Michigan, Florida, Bahamas, Bonaire, Texas, and places in between. A San Antonio Irish pub visited as a young GI 40 years ago found right where I remember. There was line dancing, great food, $1 tequila, and $10 wine, and even a television interview. Priceless time with family and friends, mourning losses, and celebrating success. There was laughter, tears, mentoring, speaking, teaching, listening, and silence. I met people who've suffered unimaginable loss and fellowshipped with others dedicated to helping them find justice. I even witnessed a woman pure of heart and motive sincerely try to raise her friend back to life. Every morning started with coffee, God's word, prayer, and gratitude. And while I still mess up plenty, I work hard to be better than I was yesterday and live a lifetime every day. How might your life be different if you lived a lifetime each day? Finally, how might the lives of others be different if you were less problem and more solution? If you weren't too proud to apologize? If you made it your mission to extend grace, encouragement, hope, and healing every day, without reservation? True humility is not thinking less of yourself. It is thinking of yourself less. C.S. Lewis. Get strong, be strong, stay strong.